Welcome to Travel Chicks, where we talk travel, transformation, and inspiration. My name's Melissa. I'm the founder of Travel Chicks, and I want to let you know that it may be me, it may be one of our other travel chicks, but welcome on board this adventure. Please, if you love what you hear, like it. Leave a review and share this with your friends. We need to inspire more people to create their own travel story. Today is another wonderful episode of Travel Talk with Travel Chicks. You want to know me, myself, Melissa. And today I am so excited to have our guest, Sandra from Tourism Ireland. Welcome, Sandra.
Hi, Melissa. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for being here. So, most of these travel talks, they're short, sweet, to the point, and we have had so many people ask about Ireland. In fact, I actually just had 2 clients get back from an incredible Air Canada Vacations trip and tour that included a car rental. And they said, number one, it was their bucket list trip. And so that's another reason why I thought you were the perfect person to come on board today and share some really helpful information, some must-sight sees for people to see. And one of the things my clients just mentioned about renting a car in Ireland, it could make a lot of people feel unshaky or shaky because you're driving on the other side and the cars are manual. And so he shared with me, and I had to make it a point to let you guys know that if you arrive at the airport and you're feeling a little bit uneasy, especially with a car rental manual driving on the other side, it is super easy for you to upgrade at the airport. It does cost a bit of money, but Sandra, I'm sure you can share on today's travel talk just the reason why it could be a completely different experience for people when they rent a car and they drive all around. And so, how about we start with, something that many people have said, Ireland is on the bucket list. And so what would you say? And if you have slides, feel free to share them for the viewers on YouTube and on Facebook. If you don't have slides, it's totally okay. So what would you say is some not to miss sites in Ireland? And how about you give us just, an overview of those places and those experiences for our guests who are considering Ireland and what they can't miss.
There's so much on that list. And I love that you say that actually, that it's a bucket list destination, because that's something that we see a lot or hear a lot, that it's on the bucket list. But people don't have the urgency to go. But that's what we want to do, right? You got to go now. You got to get that bucket list thing ticked off. And great to hear that your clients had a good time. I think you give great tips on the car rental. There is manual cars. Typically, it's manual in Ireland. But don't worry, there's lots of automatics available. Book them in advance if you can. You can upgrade at the airport, but book them in advance if you can to guarantee that availability. I just find it takes the stress off when you don't have to worry about, changing gears and doing all that kind of thing. I've been here, I'm from Dublin. I've been here 9 years now. And I get nervous now when I'm going home and I'm driving on the other side of the road for the first hour or so. But the cars are great. They always have little reminders of left and right and stuff like that on the steering wheel and on the windows, which I think is super cool. And you just follow the flow of traffic. So if you're worried about driving, don't be. You'll get into the swing of it. And it's a great way to see the off the beaten track kind of places, because they're the sweet spots in Ireland. It's all the things that aren't on the itinerary that you just happen to drive by and, stop off and see. I can, if you like, pop up some slides, give you a quick kind of whistle-stop tour of some of the big hitters, and then maybe some not to miss destinations. If you're happy with that. I feel like sometimes photos, they speak 1,000 words, pictures do. So bear with me a sec. I'll just pull that up. You can click present here, share my screen. Otherwise, I can paint a picture with my words, but the visuals are always handy. So for people not familiar with the country, I think it's always a good way to familiarize yourself, and we break the country down into a few different regions. So you'll fly into Dublin, especially from Canada. All our air access goes right into our capital city of Dublin. So you're right in the heart of things. And then you can go to this orange region, that's Ireland's ancient east, where there's a lot of our ancient history, into the green area in the center of the country, where it's our lakelands, our hidden heartlands. The blue area is the iconic Wild Atlantic Way. So it's a 2,500 kilometer coastal touring route. It's the longest defined coastal touring route in the world. And that extends up into Northern Ireland then too, where you can do the Causeway coastal route. So that's a really epic bucket list drive. If you're a driver, if you're renting that car, get up to the Causeway coastal route, then go down the west coast or the other route. That's a great trip to take.
Mm-hmm.
In Dublin, though, everyone goes to Dublin. I'm from Dublin. I love it. It's an amazing city. We have museums. All our museums are free. That's a fun insider tip. People don't realize that. So all the national museums and the art galleries are completely free. There's the Guinness Storehouse. There's, the Temple Bar, Trinity College, all of that. But my favorite thing about Dublin that people don't know is that it's surrounded by coastline. So we're a city in between the mountains and the sea. So if you hop on one of the local trains or take your car and drive out to one of the little fishing villages, you'll drive for 20, 30 minutes and you'll be in areas like this. So really amazing coastal walks, cliff walks, fishing villages, great little towns and villages. And we also have the Phoenix Park, which is right in the center of Dublin city. It's where Dublin Zoo is. It has herds of deer roaming around the park freely. It's the largest enclosed park in Europe. It's, I think, twice the size of Central Park in New York City.
Wow.
It's a big park and it's right in the heart of the city center. And it's something that people often just don't really realize is there. It's kind of tucked away. So that's one of those, if you're in the city, do all the touristy things, that's great, but get to Phoenix Park. It's where Dublin Zoo is, but even just the park itself is amazing to walk around. And it's where a Ross on Uachtaráin is, which is the house of our sitting president. So that's a fun one.
I as we're just chatting, because Dublin is right on the coastline, what can people expect temperature wise? Like, you must share probably, every time of year is going to be a different sort of experience, but what would you say the weather is like?
It's mild and moderate is what I would say. So I can look at these pictures and taste the salty sea air. There's always that little bit of a coastal breeze. In the summer we get, anything between 18 and 25. The odd hot summer day gets up to 30 degrees Celsius, but that wouldn't be regular. It's a soft summer, but we also have very mild winters. So our winters average around 6 degrees Celsius. So we don't really get a lot of snow. We don't get a lot of ice. There is that sea breeze, and especially on the west coast, it gets a little cooler. But it's funny to me that people have this, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, but a perception that Ireland is really cold, and it's not the case. And it's something that people come back to me and say all the time, being like, oh, I was expecting it to rain all the time, and it didn't. Mm-hmm. But what we do get is what we call 4 seasons in a day. So pack layers. You might be raining in the morning and it'll be sun splitting the stones by the afternoon. So it's changeable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Makes packing hard. I will admit that, but we have some tips on our website for that if you need it. So that's when it comes to climate. Then when we're talking about kind of the bucket list things to see, what I find a lot of people are interested in about Ireland is our ancient history, especially coming from Canada, quite a younger country, where we have ancient history, 5,000 years of history. The photo in the center there is one of my favorite spots. It's Newgrange in Brúna. It's about 40 minutes from Dublin. And the cool thing about this is it's an ancient passage tomb. It's older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids of Giza. And on the winter solstice every year, the sun shines into a roof box on the top of this passage tomb and illuminates all of the inner chambers.
Oh, that just gives me shivers because I can literally paint that picture in my mind.
It's actually a lottery to do it on the winter solstice because it's obviously a phenomenal experience, but they replicate it year round. So you can go and do a tour of this and they'll replicate that experience of the sun and going in and illuminating those inner chambers. But for something over 5,000 years old, I don't know how that's possible. And the stones are huge. They're massive. We don't know how, without, modern machinery, how that was possibly built as well. So it's a fascinating place. It really is, tingly, spine tingling.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of castles in this region too. Now, Ireland is littered with castles. We have over 40,000 castles, whether it's ruins or castle accommodation and hotels. But in the ancient East, you'll see a lot of those, cathedrals, castles, and ancient sites like that. And then we have Waterford. So I always give a special call out to Waterford because it's our oldest city. It's on the East Coast. It was founded by the Vikings over 800 years ago. And there's a lot of Viking ruins in the city. And it's also where you get that famous Waterford crystal. And they have the Waterford Crystal Museum there. And then I said this would be whistle stop, so it's whistle stop. I'm giving you the bucket list hitters here, but on the Wild Atlantic Way, which is that coastal touring route, that defined coastal drive, it's a lot of those mega coastlines, those epic sites, those bucket list attractions like the Cliffs of Moher, which is down in County Clare. That's the middle image there. And that extends through a lot of really beautiful, colourful towns and villages, a lot of those old stone walls, country towns, country pubs, that are very, very popular. We have Kylemore Abbey, which is a beautiful abbey just south of Galway. That's the Cliffs of Moher there. And Lonely Planet voted Donegal, just slightly further north, as the coolest place very recently. So it's a hidden gem, I would say. A lot of people go to Galway, they go to Sligo. If you go slightly further north and check out Donegal, it's the most northerly point in Ireland, even more northerly than Northern Ireland, which surprises people quite a lot.
Wow.
And I actually just got back from the West Coast. I was there in September. And I went to County Sligo and I spent some time there, and it was early October. When you ask about weather, it was good enough weather to go surfing. I was out on the West Coast surfing in October in Ireland, which seems to surprise people. I can tell by your face it surprises you as well. We have amazing surf out on the West Coast. So the season extends often right through to early December and then kicks off again in March. So we have a long surf season or water season for anyone interested in water sports and that type of thing. And some of the best unspoiled beaches that you will ever see. And I don't think people think of Ireland and beaches, but trust me, they are absolutely phenomenal. We're an island, we have all of that coastline and really unspoiled beaches because it's not a sun beach destination. So you get those epic, coastlines.
Wow. I think I just learned something I never knew or never associated surfing with Ireland.
Yeah, amazing surf all around the country, but especially on the West Coast. We even have a surf festival. It's called Sea Sessions. So every summer there's the festival Sea Sessions, that it's a music festival with surf. It's in one of the best areas for surfing called Bundoran.
Cool.
So there, now you know. And then last but certainly not least is that extension of the Wild Atlantic Way into the kind of the Causeway coastal route. So this is kind of what that looks like. We've, the Carrick-a-Reedy rope bridge, which is this amazing suspended rope bridge across two cliffs that you can walk. Check out my Instagram. I have a video of me walking it very recently. My hand is shaking because it's a bit of an adrenaline rush, but it's incredible. Looking out at the ocean below you. There's Belfast, obviously an amazing city, really great music scene in Belfast. So definitely check that out if you're interested in arts and culture, theatre, music. Belfast is where it's at. And it's the home of Titanic. So the Titanic ship was built in Belfast, and they have an incredible experience there for that. And the big one that people always want in Northern Ireland is, of course, the Giant's Causeway. So this is right on the north coast. It's 40,000 basalt columns that was created by erosion or by a giant throwing a rock across the sea from Scotland. It depends on which version of the story you want to believe. And that's that rope bridge I was telling you about. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness. That looks so freaky.
It's not too long, which is good. You're crossing it maybe for about 30 seconds, 40 seconds, but there's a beautiful coastal walk right to it. Some people stop on the coastal walk and let other people cross the bridge, but it's incredible to walk around, and it gets you to this kind of old island where fishermen used to basically live on the island and fish off this island. And there's a little fisherman's cottage. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Wow. And you can see actually from there right out to Scotland. You can actually see Scotland across the water.
Incredible.
And then I just wanted to call out, I suppose, not places, but just things not to miss when you're there. So we're known for our culture, our music, our dance. So definitely make sure that you check out a pub, whether you drink or you don't. It's nothing to do with that. And there are probably some stereotypes about Irish people that, they like to drink, but that's not the case. We have our pub as the meeting point. So that's really what the pub is. It's the heart of Ireland. It's a meeting place. And it's where you go to have a glass of water or a pint of Guinness, whatever you're feeling. But it's a place of conversation. We don't typically have TVs in our bars or our pubs, which often surprises people because they go there to maybe like watch a game like you would here in North America. But that's not what our pub culture is about. It's about, pulling up a pew, chatting to the strangers in the bar, making new friends. And lots of the bars will have live music and live Irish dancing as well. So definitely want to check out, even if you're not a drinker. Make sure you do pop in and grab a bit of lunch. We have amazing food. That is also something that surprises people a lot when they come back from Ireland. And we always hear that, oh, wow, I was really surprised by the food because I thought it was going to be just meat and potatoes. But we're an island, so that obviously means that we have incredible fresh seafood. A lot of our cuisine is all farm to fork, so a lot of the areas and a lot of the restaurants will only source produce within 20 miles, 30 miles of where that property is. We have a big agricultural economy. The best dairy you will ever taste. Have you tasted Irish butter?
No, I haven't.
Add that to your bucket list. If anything you take away, add Irish butter to your bucket list. It has a higher dairy content than North American butter. And all our cows are grass fed. So they, eat natural grass all year round, and it just creates the most amazing dairy. That also leads to really great ice cream. So there's a few amazing ice cream spots around the country. But yeah, definitely the food and drink culture. And another thing I wanted to call out is our Gaelic games. Have you ever seen Irish Gaelic games be played?
Well, I have on TV, not the live experience, though.
That's great that you've seen it on TV, though, because many people aren't really familiar with it or haven't seen it. But we have kind of 3 Gaelic games. They're ancient games. And there's Gaelic football. There's hurling, which is the one with the sticks here, which we claim was the original hockey. Because when Irish people came to Canada, they were playing this game, and then obviously they were playing it on the ice, and then it morphed into hockey. And there's a really great documentary called Puck of the Irish, which actually walked through that history and explained the origins and the connections. So I think hockey is essentially a mix of ancient Gaelic games and Indigenous Canadian sports kind of melded into one new national sport. So really great history there, connection. Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Who knew?
Yeah, I am learning so much here.
But they're amazing games. The female version of hurling is called camogie. So the 3 Gaelic games, Gaelic football, hurling and camogie. And they are played all year round. You play for your club. So it's a very local thing. It's an amateur sport, even though you would swear these people play professionally, but it is amateur. And it's the fastest field sport in the world, or one of the fastest field sports in the world. It's amazing to watch. So do YouTube it, check out Gaelic games online, or if you are in Ireland, I strongly encourage folks to go and try and see a game. They're played in local towns and villages all over. There's the Croke Park Stadium, where in the summertime, they have the All-Ireland finals, and you'll have 82,000 people in this stadium. The city goes wild. It's a big deal in Ireland. So if you're around for the All-Ireland finals, try and get tickets to that, or try and go to Croke Park and see a game if you're in Dublin. But then there is local clubs playing all over the country. So definitely try and catch a Gaelic game while you're in Ireland.
Amazing.
And kind of last but not least, I suppose, is watch out for the language. So we have a beautiful language. It's called Gaeilge or Irish. You'll see it on all the road signs. So all the towns and villages, they'll all have Irish. You'll see Céad Míle Fáilte a lot. You'll see it in the airport when you arrive. You'll see it on shops and bars. You'll hear people say it to you. It means 100,000 welcomes. And it is that expression just of, we are known for our warm hospitality. So Céad Míle Fáilte, and then Crack Agus Ceol is something you'll see that's on the left. That means fun and music. So again, tying back to that, that pub culture, that arts culture, that theatre culture, you'll see this on pubs and bars all over. And it just means fun and music. So just a place to go in and enjoy life. Make some new friends.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like your country really creates a space to build community and engage community and, bring people together.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And I hope that that's what people get when they come back from Ireland and have that takeaway. I've heard a lot of people say that that's the thing that resonates with them. It's just the people and the people that they meet along the way, the people that they talk to. Everyone in Ireland is so passionate about Ireland. And I think a lot of us feel like that about our respective countries, right? But we are a very proud nation, I think. And we like to make new friends. We like to talk. It can be hard to get us to stop talking, as you probably noticed with me. But it's to me, it's not a place. It's a feeling. Like you leave with a certain feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely sounds like that. Some of the questions that we got in, I hope you can answer. Number one is, what is the safety like in Ireland? Like, for example, Travel Chicks really promotes this idea of solo traveling, where we kind of pair people together, and ideally, even if it's a small group, 2, 3, 4 people taking off together. Is it safe for women? Is there areas to kind of avoid when in Ireland?
I would say absolutely. It's completely safe. I'd say like any major cities, you always have to be careful in cities, right? So in the big cities, keep your wits about you. But yes, It's a safe city. Safe country. Yeah, it's English speaking, it's accessible, the people are warm, the people are friendly, and there's no safety concerns. And I'd be more than comfortable, promoting and encouraging and traveling myself, which I've done many, many times, solo in Ireland.
Mm-hmm. And how about this question? How many days would you recommend, for a Canadian traveler to really get a good feel? Because everybody here in Canada is used to like 7 days, all inclusive, go away. But obviously this is an international trip. So is 10 days too short? Is 2 weeks too little?
I think it really depends on what you want to do. Vacation time, as we know, is limited in Canada, and you can see and do a lot in a week. But the average Canadian traveling to Ireland spends 11.5 days if we're averaging it out. And I would say that the 10 to 14 days is really your sweet spot, where you're going to see things that aren't just the bucket list, that aren't just the cities and the big hitters, right? You want to get a feel for a destination. You want to spend some time there. I would say the biggest mistake that I do see people make is, rush around and see all those big things. You're missing the essence of Ireland. You might get the great Instagram photos, but you're missing the essence of what the country is, and you are missing out on quite a lot. People who do a lot of those type of trips, your 6-7 day or your 6 to 8 day, they come back again because they see that they had a great time there, but really you need to spend a little longer.
Mm-hmm. And then another question that came in was, what are some of the top festivals that Ireland is known for and that Canadians could experience themselves and have, a good time?
Great question, and very timely because we are the home of Halloween. So I would say right now, Halloween is the big one. So the Festival of Halloween, I don't know if you know this, originates from the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. So the idea behind it was that the veil between this world and the next was at its thinnest on October 31st. It was a harvest festival. People used to, back in ancient Ireland over 2,000 years ago, dress up in costume to ward off evil spirits from their crop. We used to carve turnips with, scary faces for the same type of reason. And then when we emigrated en masse in the 1800s to North America, turnips weren't as readily available, so we started carving pumpkins, and that's where jack-o'-lanterns come from. So a lot of the traditions that we celebrate in Canada and in North America today actually do originate from Ireland, and we celebrate it a lot back home. So there's week-long festivals all over the country. A couple of my favorites are in Dublin. There's the Bram Stoker Festival. That's quite a family-orientated festival. It's named after Bram Stoker, who's the author of Dracula, who was born and raised in Dublin. And they have an amazing program of events for 4 days across the Halloween period over that weekend. And there's also Puka. So Puka is more of an adult festival. It's very contemporary, a lot of live music, a lot of aerial artists and fire dancing. And it takes place in Ireland's ancient east around the Hill of Tara, which is the ancient seat of the High Kings. So that's an incredible festival. And then in Derry, London Derry, we have Derry Halloween, which was actually voted by USA Today a few years ago as the world's best place to spend Halloween.
Wow. How timely is right. Huh. And I
So
do
yeah,
actually
just around the corner.
remember. Yeah, I remember the tourism event you did in Edmonton, gosh, I mean, before COVID now. And I remember you guys sharing all of these incredible photos of the Halloween festival. It was quite amazing to see.
That's a snapshot
Uh,
of it there. And then we also do have festivals year round, though. So I will say Halloween is the timely one. It's right now, it's around the corner. If you haven't booked your trip, you're probably not going to in the next week, but get it on the radar for 2025 because it's an amazing time to be at home or in Ireland. But there is, of course, St. Patrick's Day, and that's a month long festivity, I would say, but especially around March 17th. There's parades, every town and village, all the big cities, but all the small towns as well. And again, like extensive programming around that. We have Tradfest. Another one of my favorites is Tradfest in late January. That's in Dublin. It's a music festival, but it's a lot of traditional music mixed with contemporary music in quirky venues that you'd never get access to at any other time of the year. So, for example, the last time I went to the crypts of Christchurch Cathedral in the city centre to see like a traditional music concert by amazing musicians in a venue that was just spectacular. So that's another one to watch out for. But there's no shortage. Literally all year long, there's probably a festival or event happening in any given town or village.
mm-hmm. One question that just came in was which cities or towns on the Wild Atlantic Way would be best as a 3 to 4 night base from which to take like day trips?
Day trips. So a lot of people would base themselves in Galway because that's kind of right in the middle. I wonder if I can flip back to a map here. That's right in the middle. So a lot of people would base themselves there and then go north and south from Galway. If you wanted a kind of smaller town, you could look at places like Doolin and Dingle. They're kind of a little further south. Or then you could look at Sligo. Sligo is a personal favorite of mine. I absolutely love the place. As I said, went surfing there recently. They have amazing beaches. We were a little further north. So it depends on what you want to do in and around for your day trips. But Westport, Galway, Doolin or Dingle would be the four that I would say.
Okay, super helpful. Thank you. And then I want to ask you as we begin to kind of wrap things up, if there's no other questions, if you do have questions, please type them in the comments. Oh, and actually, I want to share a link I want to share a link with you. If you're listening to this on the podcast or you're viewing it on social media, if you head over to travelchicks.live/FB, we actually have a feedback form because, as you know, we put these trips together and ideally we would like to get a group trip going for next year in September. And so we want you to fill out this feedback form. And in doing so, you're going to be entered to win a $150 Air Canada Vacations voucher. So click that link and enter the feedback form. But a question as we wrap up, Sandra, is what have you guys at Tourism Ireland been noticing as as we're kind of really back in the full swing of things for travel, since COVID? What are people booking? Like what have been the top kind of travel trends for Ireland this year, 2024? Or even moving into like what are you already seeing for next year?
We're seeing people book quite far out, which is fantastic, right? We're really seeing people book, a year in advance, which is unheard of over the last little while, obviously. So, and that's one trend that we're noticing is people planning a little further out. And that's where you get the best value, right? That's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck if you are doing that. So it's good to see. Another trend we're seeing is people traveling off peak. So people not really traveling in the summer months so much. And I think maybe that's a symptom of, the reputation of Europe last year was very hot and very crowded. So we are seeing the impact of that. We're seeing, late September, October being very busy, as opposed to, July, August, as it would have been previously. We're seeing a lot of multi-generational travel and people exploring their ancestry. That's a really big one. I think a lot of people maybe did their ancestry.com or their 123andMe over COVID. Certainly wasn't holidays, over that time. And they're, realized that they have Irish heritage, which 4.6 million Canadians do. So we're seeing a lot of that type of travel. And one thing that I've really loved seeing is an increase in slow tourism, an increase in people, like the question that was asked, basing themselves somewhere, getting settled, seeing different things, but, taking their time instead of rushing through. We're seeing a lot of people, do glamping experiences, renting a barge and going down the River Shannon and spending a week just going down the river and going to, towns and villages around that. So that's been a noticeable shift, I think, as of this year.
Oh, that's such a cool idea. I mean, here in Canada, we're used to like renting a houseboat and, heading to the shoe shops. But I never thought or considered in Ireland renting a barge and heading down the river.
Yeah, it's an option.
Amazing.
And you don't have to drive on the other side of the road on the water.
Yeah. Linda, you said looking for tours specific to the wee folk, the spiritual side. I don't really know what that means. Do you, Sandra?
There's a lot of kind of spiritual travel. Ireland's known for that, like the folklore and the fairies. And there are different tour providers and product providers that do focus in on that. I don't have specific options or examples to hand, but I can definitely follow up.
Okay, so amazing. 30 minutes. I'm so glad that you guys tuned in. And if you're listening to the replay, that is amazing. Feel free to reach out to Travel Chicks, info@travelchicks.ca if you have any questions or you want to get connected for our tour that we want to host next year. And I guess in closing, Sandra, number one, thank you for taking the time today. And number two is any last minute helpful insider tips, things that you can share for that person who is considering Ireland, but they haven't pushed that button to say, yeah, okay, let's go.
It's now or never. Do it is the main piece of advice that I want to leave people with. As I said, it's always on the bucket list, but definitely go start planning the trip. We have our website, ireland.com. So encourage people to visit ireland.com. There's lots of planning tools and resources and information available to folks there. And we also have a Facebook page, Discover Ireland CA. So encourage people to follow us on there as well.
Yeah, and I love your guys' social media because you provide so many beautiful pictures, images, and helpful tips for people, considering Ireland.
And we're active on that page. So if you got a question for us, make sure to ask it. We always do get back to people there as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that is a wrap. Thank you again, Sandra.